Okay, so the recording has been started, so I will now hand over to the Chair, Councillor Gina Adami. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nas. Good evening, everyone. First of all, I would like to apologize for the delay. We had some IT problems. You may not be able to see Councillor Blake, but she is with us. She has problems with the camera. And saying that, I think we should all introduce ourselves. I'm Councillor Gina Adamo, and I'm the chair of the licensing committee. Can I ask the councillors, please, first to introduce themselves?
I'm Councillor Barbara Blake. I'm very much here, but I've got problems with the camera. Apologies, but I am here.
And Councillor Luke Cawley-Harrison, the member Crouch End Ward.
Thank you. And then the officers, please, can you introduce yourselves?
Hello, everybody. I'm Dale Barrett. I'm the licensing team leader.
Yeah, go on,
hello. Hello, everyone. I'm a lawyer for Haringey Council.
I'm Michelle Williams. I'm from the Corporate Legal Service and I'm observing tonight.
Excellent.
I'm Nisha Bashar. I'm the licensing officer.
Okay. And we have with us Naz. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hello, I'm Nazia Chowdhury, and I am the Principal Committee Coordinator and Clerk for this meeting.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Right. I have a number of names. I'm not sure who each with us, but at this point, I'd like to ask the applicants and their solicitor to introduce themselves, and perhaps then the rest of you can introduce yourselves. Say why you're with us. So, okay. The applicant or is the applicant with us?
Madam, it's Robert Sutherland. I
can't see you. I'm not sure who.
I'm representing the applicant. They're having a few difficulties, I think, getting the link. They're actually in the same room as me because we're actually at the premises. But I think they're having difficulty with the link that's been sent to them because it's not connecting them into the meeting. So we're just trying a slightly different route.
Okay. And your name, please? I didn't catch it if you did say.
My name's Robert Sutherland.
Okay. Okay.
Sorry about this.
No, that's all right. It's because I can't see you anywhere either.
Okay. My camera is on. I'm hoping you can see me. But,
right. Let me see. No, I cannot see you. You see,
I can wave if that's any help. That's me, the waving one.
Oh, no, I can't see you. So Barbara, briefly, and now she disappeared again. We seem to have IT problems tonight, which is really, but as long as we are all here and we are patient, we'll get there.
I think the applicant is just trying. No, that was it. That was it. You want to join now, I think. No, you don't want me now. Yeah, go that one.
It doesn't matter that we cannot see the applicant. Perhaps the applicant can introduce himself.
No, it's not working, is it? For some reason, it's not entirely clear to me. They're clicking on the link, but it's taking them into a different location, and I can't understand or explain why. What I can do, if it's any help to the committee, I'm going to move my laptop round, if I may. I have some difficulties with my laptop, but I'm hoping it should hold out. So right next to me, we've got Mr. Murphy. You'll have seen a statement, I think, from Mr. Murphy. Next to Mr. Murphy, you've got Theo Hudson, who is the applicant, and you've got Sinead Mulligan, who's referred to and is part of the application and runs the place with Theo. They'll carry on trying to join. it may assist, I think, whether it's possible for someone to resend the link to Theo at the Duke's Head email address, and that may help.
Okay, and Nas, can you do that? Could you send the link? And I think, Michelle, you want to come in? You got your hand up?
Yes, Chair. I just wanted to check that Councillor Blake is still with us. Councillor Blake, are you there?
I'm still with you. Can you see me? Because I can see myself in the camera now.
Ah, now we can see you.
I'm sorry, my laptop just suddenly switched off, but I'm back. I'm back.
Okay,
So yeah.
excellent. Thank you. And there are other people can see. It perhaps is right. Rachel, would you like to say a bit who you are? We can't hear you.
Apologies. My name's Rachel Terry. I'm a resident in Highgate and I'm here as a supporter for the Dukes.
Okay. And where's Lucy? And
sorry,
oh,
Chair. Sorry, yeah. Chair. Can I just be very clear, please? Because it's not everybody rep that was actually accepted. So I am expecting Sancha, I believe, who I saw on camera a little while ago, and her representation is one of the support ones that was accepted. Sorry, Chair. Do not record.
Here.
I'll tell you what, we start and you can, Lance, you can advise me who is here,
okay,
who's going to speak as we go along, because we're wasting a lot of time. Okay. I'm sorry about it seems to be a little bit messy tonight, and we normally are not like this, but anyway. Please, we start the meeting. Please note this meeting is being recorded and will be available for public viewing. I don't think we have any apologies or urgent business, and any declaration of interest. All right, I think it's not. The procedure of the meeting has been emailed to all participants by the clerk. For the purpose of any members of the public watching, we will first hear from the licensing officer. After that, the objectors will present their case and the committee and licensing officer. After the objectors will present their case, the committee and the applicants will have the opportunity to ask questions. Then the applicant will present their application and the committee and objectors will have the opportunity to ask questions. All parties will then have the opportunity to sum up, and then the meeting will conclude to allow the committee to deliberate and reach a decision. This decision will then be provided in writing within 5 working days of this meeting. Now I will ask the licensing officer to present the case, please, when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Apologies because, as I say, I'm actually not at home, so I don't have the paper documents. I'm having to do this from the report on the internet right now. So the application before you is for a new application submitted by the name of the company is That's a Big 10-4 Good Buddy, otherwise known as Duke's Highgate, as it's currently called. The application is seeking for this new license. Sorry, Chair, I'll cover that in a moment, I'll get to it. So it's actually seeking, Chair, if you disregard the regulated entertainment side, recorded music, it's just the supply of alcohol, Monday to Sunday, 12 midday to 1 a.m. and the supply of alcohol, therefore, on and off the premises, with the hours open to the public, Monday to Sunday, 12 to 1 a.m. The application can be found at Appendix A of the pack. The panel should note that the application has been altered due to the applicant not including regulated entertainment on the public notice. So that's the reason why the regulated entertainment aspect has been removed. However, should this license be granted to allow alcohol for on sales, the license holder would be able to offer regulated entertainment in line with the deregulation, the exemption part of the Act. And this will be between their hours of operation. So in the Act, it says between 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. So in this regard, should you grant this license from midday through till 11 p.m., they would be able to offer regulated entertainment on the premises without it needing to be listed on the license. The applicant has indicated that they would allow 30 minutes for customers to drink up so that the premises would shut by 01:30 a.m. Chair. Obviously, that wasn't stated on the application, Chair, so it's a matter that no doubt Mr. Sutherland would wish to speak with you on this evening. There are representations within the pack, Chair, and you have at Appendix B the representation from the licensing authority. I understand most of that has actually been agreed with Mr. Sutherland, save for the hours of operation, in particular in relation to the additional 30 minutes, Chair, in terms of the premises closing after 1 a.m. after the finish of licensed activities at 1 a.m. There are also within the pack residents' representations and a number of supporting letters, Chair, which are there only, well, in so much as the applicant has asked that they be included, but there are in fact only 2 residents that are here this evening that are have been notified by us in terms of being able to speak this evening, Chair. So we will need to ensure that that is the case. In considering the representations received and what is appropriate for the promotion of the licensing objectives, the step the subcommittee can take are to grant the application as requested, to grant the application whilst imposing additional conditions and or altering in any way the proposed operating schedule, or to exclude any licensable activities to which the application relates, or reject the whole or part of the application. Of course, members are aware that they will need to ensure that they provide full reasons in whatever determination they reach. In terms of the background, the premises has previously held the premises license since 2005. It came in to the Licensing Act 2003 under grandfather rights. The named license holders, a company called Duke's Head Highgate Limited, was dissolved in 2019, according to the company's house records. In such situations, the Licensing Act 2003 is clear that the premises license falls away. Now, unfortunately, that company did not inform the licensing authority of the fact that the company had been dissolved, and so we had a situation where the new occupiers obviously came in and were operating there. And as soon as we realised that there had been this change in the company, we were then able to notify Mr. Hudson of the fact that he actually could not be operating as a public house until he'd applied for a new license. Had the issue been notified or realised within 28 days of the company, the initial company being dissolved, then Mr. Hudson would have been able to use what's called an interim authority notice to secure the existing license. But we were well outside of that time by the time this came to light, and so we had the authority had no choice but to ask Mr. Hudson to shut and cease operating, and for them to then have to put in for this new application. It is unclear to us as to when Mr. Hudson actually took over the premises, as there had been no applications to make any changes to the license in the course, and it's been in the course of chasing up annual fees that the change in the management became clear. The current applicants were contacted and told to stop operating. They were also provided with guidance as to the need to submit a new application and how to apply for temporary event notices in the interim. The application has received representation from residents who have concerns regarding the 1 a.m. finishing time being requested, which is the same operating hours that were granted on the previous license, and we've included a copy of that at Appendix E in the pack. Chair, in terms of the licensing policy matters, you have that listed from section 3 onwards. I won't go through them all because I know you're well versed in these, and no doubt we'll be able to discuss them further with the with the legal officer. You have there, Chair, in terms of licensing hours, that point 4, Chair, where relevant representations are made, the council will consider the proposed hours on their individual merits. Notwithstanding this, the council may require stricter conditions in areas that have denser residential accommodation to prevent public nuisance. The council will endeavour to work with all parties concerned in such instances to ensure that adequate conditions are in place. The council may restrict the hours that certain premises can offer alcohol for the sale for consumption off the premises, or for preventing crime and disorder and public nuisance, Chair. In terms of the powers of the licensing authority, Chair, is set out at section 5, and I've already stated above the considerations that the panel has before them. And of course, any decision made on this matter is also subject to 21 days should any parties wish to appeal the outcome, Chair. In terms of other considerations, so section 17 of the Crime and Disorder Act 1998 comes into play, as does the Human Rights Act also, Chair. Chair, there is an additional document as well. Mr. Sutherland, I believe, wishes to take you through. Just to clarify, Chair, within that bundle of documents, there is, I believe he's got Dr. Hagan, who he's calling as a witness, Chair. Mr. Hagan did submit a representation, but it was well outside of the permitted time, so we did not accept it. But the document has ended up in the pack that the applicants wish to rely upon, and Mr. Hagan is here and can be called as a witness this evening. There's also the initial original license, a copy of it or a picture of it in the pack, Chair, which is of no relevance whatsoever because that license was fell away some time ago, because obviously the second company that took on the license and have since been dissolved. So it's of no relevance really. No doubt Mr. Sutherland will speak to it if there's any relevance that he wishes to draw from that. And Chair, there I think I will leave it unless you have any further questions for me or any questions for me.
Thank you very much. I'll take questions from members first. Councillor Harrison.
Thanks, Chair. For legal, I'm just wondering if they could perhaps advise the room what might happen were someone to start making a representation that isn't on the approved list this evening. And then Dale, I'm just wondering whether you could confirm whether there were previously noise complaints about the premises when it was under the previous license holder, whether it was seen as a nuisance venue or not, and then subsequently when the current TENS licenses have been in place, whether there have been any noise complaints due to you know, late operating or closing down time or anything like that.
So in terms of noise complaints, in the last 18 months, I'm aware that there's been 5 complaints in total. The licensing officer will be able to give any dates on that because I don't have them in front of me, I'm afraid, because of my situation. But yeah, the licensing officer can certainly speak to dates. I cannot say that if they correlate with any of the recent TENS at all. It stands. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. And any other questions, Barbara? Do you have any questions?
Sorry, if legal can just confirm what happens if someone were to speak, Gina, sorry.
Yeah, no. I just thought you may respond later, but yeah,
Okay, yeah.
The legal, the legal, if they're going to respond, please do. It's just that I can, it's IT problems tonight, and I can't see who is here. I can't see the legal. I can't see Michelle or whoever else.
Chair, we wouldn't really, I would ask, Chair, that the person who is going to speak states their name, their full name for me, and allow me the time to look and see. Obviously, I know of the two residents that are speaking in support, and I have the list of the, as does NAS, have the list of residents that have already made representation against the application. So we have that information that we can check against.
I think I will rely on advice on that, and NAS, perhaps you can say, give us the names when it comes to that, and we'll deal with it. I think, okay. Are there any more questions for the licensing officer from the applicants? I don't think members will have any questions. I certainly don't have any. Does the applicant have any questions to the officer?
Just one matter of clarification. Can you turn your volume down? Sorry, we're in the same space, so it's causing an echo. I'm hoping that you can hear me.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam. In relation to the liquidation, I think it was mentioned that the previous company was liquidated in 2019, and I'm going to suggest that it was in fact liquidated on the 5th of January 2022 from Companies House. I'm just hoping that Dahlia is able to accept that from me.
Okay, we have gone by that. The 2019 date came from what we saw on Companies House.
Okay, what was the name of the company? Because the company that I'm looking at, Companies House now, clearly shows that it was the 5th of January. I've got Duke's Head Highgate Limited.
That's correct, yes.
Then it appears to me that it's liquidated, as I say, on the 5th of January.
Okay, that doesn't actually change the position for us, licensing authority.
I accept. Sorry, I accept it doesn't.
Yeah.
But it changes the issue, I think, in that the premises was operating quite appropriately under the license from when it opened in July 2021 through to the 5th of January. I accept we still need a new license.
The problem is
operating appropriately. Obviously, the named license holders and that particular license holder and DPS were no longer on site, and there had been no changes to that license at all by Mr. Hudson when he took over the premises.
And I can deal with that when we go through the evidence for the applicant. Thank you. Madam, can I also, sorry, this isn't a question, but it is an issue that I've got. I have a difficulty with my laptop, so I'm going to switch over, if I may, to my mobile phone. So I'm going to try and get the link and come in that way. If whoever's responsible for letting people into the meeting, if they see a link from me from a mobile phone, if they could let me in, I'd be very grateful.
Do you need a few minutes for that?
I'm going to try and multitask, Madam, but
okay.
if I have a difficulty, I am in the same room as the Duke's Head guys, and so I will cross the table and make it clear that I'm in some difficulty. But Madam, please carry on. It was purely a matter of courtesy that I was letting you know that my picture and appearance may change.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any more questions from the objectors to them? Michelle, you want to come in? You got your hand up.
Yes, Chair. A question was asked by Councillor Corley Harrison as to the implications if residents who hadn't notified the licensing authority that they wish to speak at the hearing this evening were then to speak. And I just wanted to clarify that that would be a breach of the Licensing Act hearing regulations and could make any decision made tonight subject to challenge.
Okay, thank you. I think I will rely on advice when it comes to speakers or from Nas and yourself, because I have so many names in front of me. I don't know who is here, and I can't see them all either. That's the other problem I have. I'm rather sad because this is the last meeting I'm chairing, and as you know, we have so many meetings, and this is the most difficult one with IT problems in the, but anyway, okay. We move on. If there are no more questions, then I will come to the licensing officer to represent your report. Shah, you're here? Yes, I can see you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Ms. Barrett has already touched on my representation, but I'd like to notify the committee today that most of the representation has been agreed by the applicant, and it's just the hours that we're haven't been agreed. There have been 5 noise complaints, and in answer to Councillor Harrison's question earlier, there have been no complaints during the temporary event notices that have been submitted. They were also the complaints are from the end of last year, 2021. None of these complaints have been investigated.
Oh, I think we can't hear you. I think it's frozen.
And sorry, I don't know what happened there. It said I wasn't in the meeting for a moment.
Okay.
I do apologize. Sorry, my connection has gone. I do apologize. Not sure what's happened here. Sorry, can you all hear me?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
we can. Yes.
Okay, sorry, it's just gone a funny screen for me. Just
We
trying
can
to get
see
it
you
back.
though.
Oh, you can. Okay, perfect.
Yes.
All right then. You can hear me and you can see me. That's
Yes,
fine
yes,
then.
very clear. Yes.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Hudson was not compliant with closing and not selling alcohol once he was told to do so by the council due to the license having fallen away. Mr. Hudson was informed by the licensing officers on 8th of March, and noise officer, ASB officers visited on the 26th of March, and the premises were still operating. Mr. Hudson stopped selling alcohol after speaking with Miss Barrett on 26th of March. The temporary event notices were subsequently submitted. The licensing authority rep is all agreed except for the hours of operation. Mr. Hudson has not allowed for drinking up time on the application and is wishing to cease all alcohol sales at 1 a.m. and close off to the public at 1:30 a.m. The licensing authority has no issue with this in principle, as it is reflective of what was previously held. However, the timing of 1:30 is not stated on the application. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Thank you. I'll take questions now from members. Councillor Harrison.
Thanks. So, was it the 26th of March of this year or last year that you're talking about?
Sorry, this year. This year.
Okay, but there were 10s before that, were they, or were the 10s just this year?
The 10s were this year. Once Mr. Hudson was notified, a few weeks after Mr. Hudson was notified that there was no license in place.
I see. Okay, thanks.
Any other questions from members?
No, no questions.
Okay.
No questions from me.
Can I ask you? You identified a you made comments on prevention of crime, disorder, staff training, and about 2 pages or 3 pages, public safety, protection of children. Can I ask whether the applicant has agreed to? Are they supporting with these comments? Are they working? Have they responded at all?
They are.
To you or to your report?
Yes, they have.
They have.
They have. They've agreed to all the conditions bar the closing time.
Excellent. Okay. That's fine. Thank you very much. Can I ask the challenge 25 proof, is that accepted as well?
Sorry, I didn't catch that, Councillor.
The age about, the 25, the challenge 25 of age scheme.
Chair, can I assist? Within the pack, within the additional documents that have been circulated, the last bundle, Mr. Sutherland has very helpfully provided a list of the agreed conditions in that bundle.
Is this a page 49? Is that the email you forward?
I think that now is sent through, I believe. Sorry, I will need to go back.
Madam, if I may assist, I think it's on the additional bundle at pages 15 and 16.
Okay, excellent. Okay, thank you. Right. In that case, do you does the applicant, do you have any questions to the licensing officer on her report? Either maybe not, or maybe you can hear me. Has the applicant have any questions to the licensing officer? Report.
Sorry, madam, I'm adjusting to using a small screen rather than the larger screen. So hopefully you can hear me.
Yes.
In relation to the complaints, it may be this is a question for the licensing officer. It may be that it isn't, but I'm sure someone will correct me if it isn't. There are 5 dates, as I understand it, for noise complaints that relate to the 14th of August 2021 at 10:33. Is that correct? That's the first one, I think.
Just bringing them up. Yes, that's correct. 14th of August, 21, 10:33.
10:33 in the morning, yes?
Yes. Sorry, can I clarify that? The 10:33 in the morning is it's when it was picked up. It was the complaint was for 2 a.m. on the 14th of August, but because it was done through our website, it was picked up on 10:33.
So the noise was at 2 a.m. Sorry, I do apologize. It's echoey at my end, which is throwing me out. It's 2 a.m. on the morning of the 14th of August. It's saying that was noise. Does it give any description of what the noise is?
All I can see is loud music.
Okay. Was any communication made to the premises in relation to that incident?
I can't see any action being taken at the moment.
Okay. There was no check as to whether the premises were open at 2 a.m. on the 14th of August?
No, there was no officer on duty.
Okay. The next one, I think, was the 9th of December, 2021. Yes. And the time I have is 9:23, but the time may be the time of reporting, not the time of the noise. So
that's correct. If you could
assist me on that one, that would be helpful.
That is correct. And unfortunately, at hand, I don't have the time when the noise was happening.
Okay. And are you able to assist me in relation to whether any communication was made with the operators in relation to that occasion on the 9th of December?
I'm sorry, I can't. I don't have any other information on record.
I think the third one is also on the 9th of December.
It is.
I think that, and I'm not sure, this may be the noise, but I'm not sure. It's 2259.
That one I will say is the same because it was a phone complaint.
But no other information, no?
No, I'm sorry. And
and
but by the time the
sorry,
officers
I
had called,
interrupted. I do apologise.
no, that's okay. By the time the officers had called back, the noise had stopped.
And there was no letter or anything to the premises to say that you'd had the complaint and to ask what they were going to say about it.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. Then I've got the 12th of February of this year, and I got a time of 6 p.m. I should say, 1800 hours. Is that the time of the complaint, or is that the time of the noise?
That would be the time. Again, it's a phone complaint, so it would be the time of the complaint.
But you don't know what time the noise was, whether it was at 6 o'clock.
No, it's not
or any other
stated.
time.
Yeah, it's not stated. I'm sorry.
Okay. And then I think finally, I think it's also, I'm not sure whether this is the 12th or the 13th. I've written it down as the 12th, but it's at 0043, which may suggest that it's in the morning of the following day. Is there any, is that the time of the complaint, or again, is that the noise? Do you know anything more other than
Again, it
that?
was done through the online form, so that's the time it was
Online.
submitted. Yes.
Okay. And have you got any other information in relation to that one?
Unfortunately not. That's all I have on record.
And so we don't know, is it music or talking, or you just don't know?
It just says noise on that one.
Okay. And again, was any communication made with the Duke's Head in relation to it?
There's nothing on record.
Okay, cool. Thank you. I've got no further questions, madam.
Right. Thank you very much. Naz, I will ask you now to tell me if there are who are the residents or oh my God, I could hear my voice over again. Naz, could you tell me the names of the residents who are here to object?
Okay, so the first, I can also hear myself. Okay, so the first residents, we've got Ian and Sarah Thorley. I don't know if they're there, Ian, Sarah. The next person.
We're here.
Oh, you are here. Okay, so
We are.
Okay, so we can. I'll hand back to the chair then. In that case.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Sarah, would you like?
Hi.
Would you like to speak then?
Yeah. So we live next door at Parkview Mansions, and unfortunately, since September, and actually, I'm quite surprised hearing that there've only been a total of 5 complaints, because I've actually had reason to call the Environmental Health Office on several occasions, past midnight. In fact, I'm not unreasonable. I understand that a pub can be open and people can be sort of, in the pub, but when it comes to sort of 12, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, I live next door. It's my husband and I and my daughter. My daughter is at the front of the building, so she unfortunately bears the brunt of a lot of the noise. And even us at the back, our bedroom is at the back. There can be an extraordinary amount of noise, and some of which I've recorded. But I have actually had calls to phone Environmental Health and complain several times. And the reason, actually, just to let you know, part of the reason why I didn't go next door myself, I'm disabled, I'm blind, I'm not very well a lot of the time, and sleep is precious. My daughter is also studying, and sleep is precious to her. So when our sleep is disrupted, as it has been sometimes on Thursday and Friday evenings, it's really upsetting. It's just really, really upsetting. And on the one occasion, I did actually call the pub about a separate issue to do with their delivery people parking in my disabled bay, which is a dedicated disabled bay. I ended up having rather an unpleasant conversation with one of the gentlemen there, and frankly, it put me off going in there. It was quite intimidating, and I was really put off going in there and trying to talk to them. But going back to the noise, it's not constant, but when it's loud, it's really intrusive. It's really intrusive. It's really upsetting. And if I'm not feeling very well and I don't sleep very well, this noise just really doesn't help my mental health. It's very, very stressful, and I have a stress-related illness.
Thank you. Are there any questions to this resident from members? Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, two questions, if I may. You mentioned in your rep that you had reason to make a noise complaint. Are you saying that you did make noise complaints and they haven't been recorded, or you didn't make the complaint but you felt that the noise was at a sufficient level?
I've made several complaints to the environmental health officer. I've spoken to several people there. I've had callbacks. Once I spoke to a gentleman called Steve Davis, which I did remember his name. I took a note of his name. But I mean, I have made noise complaints probably on at least 5 occasions. So I don't know whether the ones that I know, the one in August that you have recorded isn't me because I wasn't here. But I complained in September. I believe I complained at the end of October. I complained, I think, in December. I complained in January. You know, we just want a nice, quiet life. And I'm not trying to restrict them earning a living. I just want a quiet life. I just want, you know, Highgate is a peaceful, family-oriented village. And that's sort of what we bought into when we bought our apartment here.
Thanks. And maybe officers can look into why those weren't representations made whilst I ask my second question, which is in relation to what type of noise it is that is causing the disturbance. Is it the music from inside the venue? Is it people leaving the venue, people loitering outside? If you can kind of give us some information on that. Thanks.
So it's multiple, actually. I think I'm right in saying that the venue doesn't have a sort of a beer garden per se. So the noise is coming from people at the front who are standing outside. I think I'm right in saying that they're sort of smoking, because obviously you can't do that in the pub. Lots of sort of, you know, people aren't talking. People are sort of talking very loudly, shouting. It seems to be at the time when perhaps the pub is closing, that there's a lot of noise, people coming out of the pub. There's the sort of, you know, lots of sort of whooping and yelling and laughing. You know, I think the noise is coming sort of both from inside and outside the pub. Sometimes we can hear loud music. Other times it's just voices from, presumably from patrons. Again, all sorts of times, you know, very often if we come home in the evening, there are a lot of people standing outside. And if it's early on, then you know, so be it. But this, I'm talking about people making lots of noise after midnight. As I say, I've got a recording from, I believe it was Halloween weekend, where they had an event there, and I recorded the noise of people laughing and shouting, presumably outside the pub, at sort of 12:15, 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. It's just not reasonable when we want to go to sleep.
Can I check the previous owners had the same hours of operation on their license. Did you have similar issues with them, or did they close earlier, or did they not have people standing outside?
I believe there was no. I believe there weren't people standing outside. It was a much quieter, what I would call a sort of sleepy venue.
Right.
Actually, as I say, in keeping with the village,
Okay.
it was a quiet, sleepy pub. That there wasn't really any noise. It certainly wasn't bothersome.
Okay, thank you. I don't know if the chair has frozen.
I think the chair has frozen. Yeah.
Can I just ask?
Sorry, Councillor. Can we wait to make sure Councillor Adam is actually?
Okay. All right.
Naz, can you try and reach her?
Yeah. Okay, Councillor Dharma, you should be back with us.
Yeah, I am back. I don't know what happened. He disconnected me and I managed to join again. I do apologize, but I think we were at the point where the resident was saying the previous owner, it was quieter, I think. That's when I lost the connection. She was saying that, yeah.
We didn't pick, we didn't, I mean, there was no issue with noise with the previous, publicans. But Madam Chair, can I just say to you, I genuinely, we don't want to, we respect that they want to make a living. We don't want to sort of, we don't want to be party poopers. We don't want to spoil it. We respect that they want to make a living. They want to have the pub, but we also feel that it's our right to have peace and quiet and not be stressed, and feel that we need to complain. We don't want to be complaining. We just all want to, live alongside each other respectfully and peacefully being the operative word.
Okay, thank you. I think Councillor Blake has a question.
Thank you, Chair. So could I ask, do you talked about you did approach the landlord or the manager or the owner, and you had it was not a very positive experience. You don't, do you feel that you can approach them and just say, look, there's noise, could you just sort of tone it down or control the people outside? What can you give a bit more detail about that, please?
Yeah, so my experience was that, as I said, I'm disabled. I have a dedicated disabled bay outside Parkview Mansions, which is where we live next door to the Duke's Head. And I did speak to one of the gentlemen, and I said, your delivery people keep parking in my bay. And as I say, this was some months ago. The conversation was pretty aggressive from his side, and I'm not, I'm not a wimp, but equally, I felt that he was very aggressive, and I don't want to get into some confrontation with the publicans next door. If they have a rowdy crowd, which sometimes they do, frankly, I don't want to be going downstairs, going next door, and asking them to tone it down. I shouldn't have to do that. And I would hope that out of respect for their neighbours, they would sort of, do that anyway. But I don't want to get into a confrontation, and I think I don't want to speak for my neighbours, but I think we all feel the same. We're only a block of 9 flats. We're all sort of family people, and having somebody sort of pretty aggressive, which was my only experience with them, when I asked them to ask their delivery people not to park there. It put me off being conciliatory and going down there and saying, do you mind asking your patrons to keep it down, please? Because I figured I would get the same sort of aggressive feedback. And that's why I complained directly to Environmental Health.
Okay, thank you. I think the officers have to look why we didn't have all the complaints, all the information about the complaints, and as Sarah's some complaints about noise and all that. I think it's important we have.
And I just want to, sorry to interrupt you, just want to add, Madam Chair, one other thing. There were 2 or 3 occasions where I did complain. I think it was September and maybe the end of October and possibly even December, that when I spoke to Environmental Health and they put the details in, according to them, they said to me, well, we are showing that the pub is closed. We are not showing that the pub is even open anymore. And I said, well, I can assure you the pub is open.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Danny, you want to come in? You got your hand up?
Sorry, Chair, I was just going to clarify that within the 5 complaints, because obviously these complaints have come in either while the service is not operating or whatever the case may be, so they've not had any responses back on them, and they do go directly through to the antisocial behaviour team. It doesn't actually come through to licensing at all. So what it's showing is that, in fact, for Miss Thorley, that 2 out of the 5 were actually submitted from her. But yeah, we can still only see 5 on there unless Miss Shah has been able to find anything else that's been captured in another way.
Okay, maybe it's a conversation.
Well, every time I complain, just to tell you that it unfortunately I was told over and over again that somebody would come back to me, and other than the occasion where I spoke to Steve Barrett, Steve Davis, sorry, other than that occasion, I was told that is it a lady called Jenny? Is it Jenny Barrett? Is that the lady that I've got her name noted down somewhere? I was told that the head of the department would call me back and would definitely come back to me on several occasions, and she never did. I never heard back from anybody. If you want that name, I can ask my husband to look it up for me, because I did take a note of her name.
That's fine, Chair. You have my word that I will take the matter up and have those discussions as you've said. Okay.
Oh, that's excellent. Thank you very much. Yeah. Shah, you have your hand up. You want to come in?
Sorry, yes. Thank you, Dale, for taking that on. I was just going to ask one question to
Yes.
Sarah. Sorry, on every occasion, can I just ask, did you identify yourself and report it under your name?
Yes, every time, because every time they took my name, they took my telephone number, they took my postal code, and they took my address. You know, I wasn't anonymous.
That's fine, and that's all I wanted to clarify. And can I also ask one other thing? Were you ever given reference numbers when you spoke to an officer?
I can't remember. It may have been. There may have been an occasion once or twice where they said, do you want to take down a reference number? And when I explained that I was blind, they said, okay, don't worry, not a problem. We've got your complaint noted. So
Thank you for clarifying. Like Ms. Barrett said, she will take this forward as well, and I'll make some investigations myself through the system. Thank you.
thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. Before we move on, does the applicant have any question to the resident? No? Okay.
I apologise, madam. It may be that you asked me a question,
Yeah.
and I was
have a question
momentarily
to the resident?
distracted. If you did, then my apologies. It may have been whether I had any questions for
Yes.
the
yeah.
representative. And of course, if you didn't ask me that, then I'm completely out of order. And again, my apologies for that. So, madam, do you want me to ask any questions?
No, I was asking.
Or do you want me to wait until you've dealt with all of the people who've made representations?
It's up to you. If you want to wait, that's fine with me. Okay.
It may help, madam, if I deal with just a few points of clarification, if I may.
Okay.
It would assist if. Sorry, is it Ms. Thorley? I may have noted your name down wrong.
Yes, it is.
Thank you, Ms. Thorley. In relation to when you moved into the premises, I wasn't quite sure when that was. Can you assist me?
Yeah, we bought the property. My husband's here. Forgive me. I'm just August 2020. August 2020.
And would I be right in saying that when you moved in, premises was closed?
I can't remember. I'm sorry. I think it may well have been. I can't remember.
If I was to suggest to you that the premises was closed and remained closed until it was reopened by Theo in July of last year, would does that accord with your memory, your recollection?
That may be the case. I mean, we were in the process of buying the property. Yes, in July sort of August 2020. It may well have been closed. I'm sorry, I'm afraid I can't remember.
So, can you also assist me in relation to the vehicle parking in front of your premises?
Yes.
Was that from the Duke's Head, or would it have been from possibly Coates Brasserie on the other side?
No,
I think, of your premises.
No, it was their what do you call it? Their delivery people. Their brewery delivery.
Sorry. Coates also have a bar. Okay, and you're sure it was from Duke's and not from Coates Brasserie?
Well, actually, I am sure it was from. The particular instances that I'm talking about is when there were. It was a sort of a large, I don't know what you call it, truck or lorry that had. My husband described it as sort of alcohol barrels or something on there. And in fact, after I spoke to the Duke's Head, my husband had taken note of the telephone number for the brewery, and I phoned them myself and I said, you know, I have disabled bay. When you deliver to the Duke's Head, would you be kind enough to park elsewhere, because it prevents me from parking in my own space. So, having had the upsetting call with with the pub, I phoned the brewery myself.
Okay, and the brewery, I'm sure, would have indicated that they wouldn't park
Absolutely.
in
yeah.
your space.
yeah.
I'm sure that would be the
yeah,
case,
absolutely.
whoever they were acting for.
Yes, absolutely.
I don't know whether Mr. Hudson's face is visible on the screen. I know that he doesn't recall any conversations at all with you. Would it have been with the gentleman that you can see?
I'm afraid I'm blind.
I do apologise, and that was a very silly question. I really do apologise. Was it in person that you spoke with the individual, or was it?
No,
was
as I
it
said, it
on
was
the
a
telephone?
phone call. Yeah, it was a phone call.
It was a phone call. Okay, understand. In relation to the Mr. Hudson, Mr. Theo Hudson, indicates he's never spoken to you at all.
I think it was his.
Would be
I believe
very
it was his
happy to
brother.
speak with you. Would that
Does he have
would that be something that
a?
would be welcomed, and you would be agreeable to him making contact with you to speak?
Yeah, I mean, I believe actually it was his brother that I spoke to.
Okay.
So,
but if Mr. Theo Hudson spoke with you, you'd be okay with that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what he wants to speak to me about, but you know, I as I say, I all I want is a quiet, peaceful life, and you know, as long as their patrons are quiet and you know the music's not too loud and we can have a nice, quiet life that we've enjoyed prior to them coming here, then you know that's fine. But if he wants to call me, that's also fine.
In relation to the music being loud, do you remember what occasions that the music was loud?
Well, I mean, I specifically remember in September because we had just come back from a holiday, and I was sort of pretty horrified that there was all this noise. It was also on Halloween weekend. Again, I'd have to check with my recording that I made what date it was, but it was definitely Halloween weekend. Christmas, I think it was noisy. I mean, again, I haven't made attendance notes because I wasn't really sure, you know, I wasn't really aware I was going to be in this situation where I would have to represent myself with specific dates. But there have been many occasions where there's been lots of noise, music, and shouting and laughing and all the rest of it.
In relation to the music, you suggested that was at 2:00 in the morning.
No, I didn't suggest that was 2:00 in the morning. I
Then
said
my
I don't
mistake. I think you mentioned something was at 2:00 in the morning, and I may have misheard you.
Noise outside on the street.
Noise outside on the street. So in relation to the music, what time do you say that has been an issue?
Well, I've heard, I mean, certainly after 11:00. I mean, there's been occasions where it's been 12:15, 12:30. But as I've said to you, you know, frankly, I haven't made attendance notes. I haven't kept a log of every single time I've heard music. Sometimes when I've complained to the environmental health officer, I've phoned because it's noisy, whether that be music or whether that be patrons.
Okay.
So in relation to the music,
I think I need to.
The fact that should this license be granted, there would be no recorded music in regulated entertainment being played after 11:00 at night. That would be helpful.
Well, it would certainly be helpful. It would solve one of the issues, but what it doesn't solve is the patrons outside the pub making a huge amount of noise and disrupting our ability to sleep.
Okay, I think I need to bring this to an
Now,
end.
in relation to the
Robert,
patron noise
Mr.
outside,
Sutherland, Mr. Sutherland, the chair is wishing to speak.
I think we
Mr.
need to
Sutherland.
bring. I think we need
you've obviously raised.
I think we need to bring this to an end because it's not cross-examining. We're not in court. I think we heard the residents, and I think we have to move on. And you have every chance when you present your application to, to speak. Is that okay?
Well, Madam Chair, thank you, because it was starting to feel like I was being cross-examined.
Yes. Well, I tried to intervene a couple of times, but I don't think you could hear me.
Oh,
All right. I have a number of names here from residents. What I'm going to do is call out the names and see who is here. I will take another resident who is objecting to speak. And I have here Richard Weber. Now, could you advise me if Richard is here?
Okay, yes, the next name on the list is Richard Webber.
Yeah.
Are you
Do
there?
you know if he's with us? Is he here?
His name doesn't appear, so
Okay. And then on Jonathan Gilbanks.
Jonathan Gilbanks, are you there?
Yeah. I will call the names down, and if they're here, please indicate. Peter also, resident. Ann Sadler, Jeffrey Salmon, Mary Butler. Do you have? Do you know if anyone is here, Naz?
I can only go through. I can only go through
list of names.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that the next person down was Anne Sadler Forster. I don't see an Anne Sadler Forster. Are you there? Okay. If there's
Perhaps the easiest way is to, if you're a resident, you're here to object, your name is on the list, could you please speak up or indicate? It doesn't seem we have anybody else here. In that case, I will go to the applicant and ask the applicant.
Sorry, Chair. I think we may have somebody who is, because I see the name Sancha there. I mean,
yes, I'm here. So
yeah.
Sancha is there in support of the premises, as is Miss Terry
Yeah.
is here in support of the premises, and
Yeah.
Mr. Dr. Hagan is also in support of the premises.
And I would take that after the application is, we hear the application. Can I ask the applicant to present your application, please?
Madam, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Madam, it may assist if we deal with the situation as to how we get to this particular situation. I cover most of this through the additional papers which have been submitted. It was indicated, I think, at the very start that the license that I attach at in the additional papers at page 12 and 13 is unnecessary. But I think the reason it is there, it's not to say that it is a current valid license. It is to say that the original of that document was the document which was at the Duke's Head, and was the document which Mr. David John Murphy, who's referred to on that document, if you look at page 12, believed that, in fact, the license was still in place from his father, who is John Francis Murphy, and himself, Dave John Murphy, as the DPS. And that's part of why some of the confusion has taken place. If I refer you to page 17 of that additional bundle, you've got the letter or statement from Dave Murphy, who's present next to me, and if the committee have questions, he will be able to deal with them. He sets out the circumstances as to the dispute that he had with the previous operators, that the previous operators had transferred the license from his father to them. He was not aware of that and believed actually that the license was still in his father's name, and that the document that I've just taken you to was still in place. Now, that clearly was not the case. And when the tenants company, which goes into liquidation in January of this year, that brought that old license to an end. That was not known, obviously, to Mr. Murphy, who owns the freehold of the building, and believed, as I say, that the premises could continue to trade under his license. The reason there was no transfer application is due, as he refers, to a dispute that he had with the tenant, which was going through the court, and indeed, I believe, settled in the last week or so, and that was settled in his favour. But up until, whilst those proceedings were ongoing, the intention was that no application would be made in relation to the licence, because he thought it might complicate the issue that he was having with the previous tenants. That's really by way of explanation. It doesn't, of course, address the fact that when the company went under in January, that the licence came to an end, and the premises obviously continued. As you will have seen from the statement of Mr. Theodore Hudson, page 1, the first thing that we say in relation to that is sorry. We're sorry that we're here, and that we have been placed in this position because the premises doesn't have a current license. We're sorry that obviously we operated for a period believing that we had a license when we did not. The background of the premises and the what Mr. Theo Hudson is looking to do here is set out within his statement, and it also sets out the substantial investment that he and his brother have made into the refurbishment of the premises. It's a substantial investment, and it's based on this premises, this pub being a local pub, being part of the community. They are very clear in their minds that they are very much part of the community, so much so that Ben Hudson is on the committee which deals with the Christmas lights in the on the road, and he makes decisions and assists in relation to that. He's also a member of a local football team and plays for them. This is a community pub. You'll have picked up really from all of the letters of support and representations how much a part of the community the individuals who come to the premises feel. It is they that talk about the premises, helping them settle into the community, being a vital hub within the community, encouraging communication between members of the community. That is what the residents say. That's not what Mr. Hudson says or I say. That's what the residents say. We aim to be a part of the community. We want to be part of the community. And if the committee grants the license, we will be part of the community and continue to operate in the way that we have. Now, there are issues in relation to what is said against the premises, and I'll come to that, if I may, in a few moments. Let's first of all, though, look at the application itself. There were, unfortunately, Mr. Hudson, whilst having experience of a license, is not an experienced licensed practitioner. Unfortunately, he didn't know of my existence until very close to this hearing. Had he done so, then I would anticipate that a lot of the issues that arose in the early days and the problems that arose probably wouldn't have happened because he would have had someone to assist him in relation to putting the application in. That's important because one of the things is in relation to the hours. Now, it's been mentioned that we're applying for the sale of alcohol through to 1 o'clock, and that is correct. There's no change on that. The premises has had a 1 o'clock license for many years. As you can see from the old document that in fact I've put in. So 1 o'clock is not a new time. There is no extension on that. Now, the misunderstanding from Mr. Hudson's part, if it is a misunderstanding, but the misunderstanding from Mr. Hudson's part is if you look at the application form, and by this I'm referring you to Appendix A, and if I could take you to page 13 of your papers. Bearing in mind that this is not an expert who's dealing with this, this is an average person, and I mean nothing derogatory by that, but an average person dealing with it has a form in front of him, and I refer you to the hours premises are open to the public section. Which is about a third of the way down the page. That says, which days of the week do you intend the premises, should be intend the premises to be used for the activity, question mark, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, give timings, 24-hour clock, only give details for the days of the week when you intend the premises to be used for the activity. I think anybody looking at that could be forgiven for thinking that what that actually meant was, okay, what's the activity that I'm doing? I'm running a pub. It's known that the pub operates through to 1 o'clock. It's known that it sells alcohol through to 1 o'clock. Therefore, I will put my finish time in there as 1 o'clock. I think it's a genuine approach that he has made. He's not tried to disguise anything. The premises has operated with 1 o'clock for the sale of alcohol. I suppose, for want of a better phrase, a 30-minute drinking up time, probably since the Licensing Act 2003 came into being in 2005. So with various different operators, it's operated in that way. I think that is understandable. I think that what we say about it is that there's no intention here to mislead. The intention is that alcohol will cease to be sold at 1 o'clock and people will drink up and then will leave in the normal way. It is very likely that, if not over 100% sure, if that's possible, that by 1:30 all of the customers will have gone. He assures me that generally speaking, all of the customers have left by 1:15, 1:20, and certainly don't hang around to 1:30. You'll have picked up from the people who've put in emails of support that those individuals live locally. The vast majority of people coming to this place are local. There are some people that come to it for its very specialist approach in relation to they call honky tonk, you may call it country and western approach. So there are some people who come specifically for that. But the vast majority of people are coming here because this is a local pub It's a community pub. It's a community, I would say it's a community asset. It's been around for a long time. So that's how we get to this situation in relation to the hours and the closing or the opening hours through to 1 o'clock. And I would invite the committee, please, to consider that and allow the alcohol to be sold through to 1 o'clock, with people leaving after 1. In relation to all the other licensable activities, as has been correctly said to the committee, there were issues in relation to various different things, and notices, etc. But in essence, that doesn't matter, because the nature of this premises is that it provides alcoholic refreshment, it provides food, and is looking at extending the food offer at the premises. In relation to the recorded music, as has been indicated, they can operate under the deregulation provisions as well as the live music. They've had live music on only a couple of occasions since they opened. They obviously look to continue that. And as far as we are aware, there are no complaints in relation to the live music. Now, turning to the issue of the objections and the concerns that have been raised, a lot of the objections refer to increasing the hours. And as is clear, I would hope, to the committee, this is not a case where the hours are being increased. It's a case where what was is sought to be put back into place, given that it was removed not by any formal process because something had gone wrong, but it had, sorry, my camera's gone for some reason, but I'm back with you, I think. The license was removed not because it was reviewed because of problems with it. It was reviewed, it was removed because of a technicality. Now, that doesn't mean to say it hasn't gone. Of course, it has gone. But what we are seeking to do is to put back that which was there. And there is a considerable amount of support from local residents to facilitate that and to allow the license to be put back to 1 o'clock. You'll hear from individuals who consider it very important that the premises are able to operate through to 1 o'clock. The committee may well ask myself and Theo, okay, well, what about the complaints in relation to noise? And what I would say in relation to that, very genuinely, the first time that we were aware of noise complaints, I think was a couple of days ago, in relation to specific dates. And it's only, I think, confirmed either yesterday or today that the only information I have are the dates. I didn't even have the times when that they were relating to the noise. I merely had a time of when the complaint was made. And that means it's difficult, and particularly when we're looking back to the period when one of the complaints is back in August. I don't know about the committee. I have enough problems remembering what I was doing yesterday, let alone back in August. Had the complaint been brought to their attention, had they been written to or an email sent to them, or had somebody contacted them and said, look, did you know there's a noise complaint? Then, of course, at that time, we could investigate it in relation to what the nature of the noise was. Was it people leaving? Was it music noise? We can interrogate our CCTV system and see whether there's any particular issues. From our incident book that is kept at the premises, there's no record of complaints in relation to noise for any of those dates, and obviously the CCTV is not retained for that longer period, so we can't go back to that. So if we're aware of these issues, then I think it would be right for us to respond and to deal with them appropriately and to investigate and to find out what the cause is in order to be able to find solutions. When we're not aware of it, which is the case here, then it makes it very difficult to respond. But of course, what I've emphasised from the start is that we're a community pub, we're a community premises. We want to be part of that community. So there is, it's clear that Theo does not want to be a cause for any concern or nuisance to neighbours. We have direct contact, obviously, with those people who live immediately above us. We have direct contact with people who live to the other side. We have direct contact to people who live behind our premises and very close to the premises down the alleyway. All of those people have indicated to us in the daily contact that we have that there are no problems. So everything, all the information that was being provided to us was that there wasn't an issue. Now that we are aware of an issue, of course, we need to investigate it. We need to make sure that, particularly when patrons leave, that or when they're outside smoking, that we have measures in place to ensure that they don't cause a nuisance. If those measures are in place, I would look to ensure that, of course, there wouldn't be any cause for complaint, which I know obviously is what Ms. Thurlow has raised, that she doesn't want to have to complain. We don't want her to have to complain either. So we will look at our dispersal policy, we'll look at our smoking policy, and we'll look at making sure that there are steps in place there to reflect that. We've provided a landline number and a mobile number. Mobile number is Theo's personal number, so it will go through to him. Now, I appreciate that people may not want to talk to Theo. As nice a chap as he is, I'm sure that, you know, there's other things that they could be doing. But if there is an issue, and if it hasn't been picked up at the premises, because most of the time he is here, but if for any reason he's not here, then he will be able to deal with the point that's raised, the complaint that's raised on the telephone, and will be in touch with Sinead, who's also present and listening to me. She will be here and she will make sure that it's sorted and resolved. That's the way to deal, I would submit, with complaints, because then we're dealing with the particular problem. In relation to the music noise, I think, again, we're not aware of anything, but I think there are conditions on the license, and in fact, somehow the license, even though it doesn't cover regulated entertainment, I think is helpful in this regard, because of course it doesn't authorize any regulated entertainment beyond 11 o'clock at night. So any music that would be played at the premises after that time would be background and shouldn't be at a level that anyone would be hearing outside of the premises in any event. But let me take you through the conditions, if I may, because I think there's some conditions which are in there which also may assist. So if you look at the additional bundle at page 15, in respect of the additional bundle, just bear with me a second. I'm just going to plug my phone in because I think it needs some additional charge. So in respect of those conditions, you've obviously got the CCTV condition, which is the normal one, and that somebody is present and able to operate it. Condition 3 deals specifically with smokers, so that anyone who's leaving the premises to smoke won't be permitted to take drinks with them. And we say, well, that's important, because if people can't take their drinks with them, they're less likely to remain outside drinking and chatting. They're merely going to go out for their cigarette. Once they've finished their cigarette, they'll come back in. And so that, I think, is an important condition. Condition 4 places a positive onus on the licence holder, on Theo, to ensure that the patrons don't obstruct the highway whilst outside the premises. Now, that's at any time of the day. So it's important that Sinead and that Theo ensure that there's a clear pathway outside of the premises. It's not, and that's clearly what they will do. The 5th one, I think, which is again important, is the incident log, which deals with complaints. and any instance of disorder, that a record is made. So if a complaint is made, then a record will be made in the incident book, and it will be necessary for Theo to take action on it. Your licensing officers, when they come and inspect the premises and they look at the incident book, they will look to see whether there's any complaints. And obviously, a record of those complaints would need to be in there. And then, of course, any action that was required as part of dealing with those complaints would also need to be recorded. So, of course, that is all very, very important. Condition 6 deals with the noise being generated on the premises. And of course, that again ensures that there's no noise that would cause a nuisance to any premises nearby. It's an important condition. And of course, if they breach that, then that, of course, would render them liable to prosecution for a criminal offence, but also, obviously, to review of the licence as well. You've got, and I don't know what's happening to my numbering, I can only apologise. We then go to condition, it says 8, but it's the next condition down, which talks about notices should be prominently displayed in any area used for smoking, requesting patrons to respect the needs of local residents and use the area quietly. And again, those notices are in place. We have placed notices up, as you've seen in some of the photographs, in relation to patrons who leave. And again, we will encourage them to respect local residents and businesses and leave the area quietly. Now that we're specifically aware of the issues in relation to the residents, then we can ensure that should the committee grant the licence, that when patrons leave, we will personally speak with them. It's a small premises. It's not a huge premises. The capacity, I'm just looking across to Theo, but I would have said probably looking no more than 50 people. I would have thought 50 to 70 people maximum. It's a small premises. So they know their customers very well, and they will encourage them personally to respect the neighbours. Most of them live locally, and therefore they know what it's like to live in this area and to be disturbed by people, and therefore hopefully that will encourage them to be quieter. The other aspects, there are further conditions in relation to nuisance. So I've talked about the direct telephone number for Theo, and that's obviously publicly available and is made available to local residents. The other conditions you can see there is, I suppose, the other one which is relevant to this type of thing, often because it's thought to be an age-related thing, is the Challenge 25 proof of age system. And of course, they've adopted that. Now, in addition to that, they voluntarily adopt a over 21s policy. And so there's a clear notice, and you'll have seen it in the photograph of the premises, that anybody who's over 21 anyone who's under 21 is discouraged from attending. And generally speaking, if they come in and Theo doesn't know them and asks them if they're under 21 and they say, yeah, we're under 21, he just asks them to leave. He doesn't want them. He doesn't want people who potentially are going to cause problems at his premises. And he focuses very much on an older clientele. So you can see that's at photograph 11. You can see from the photographs, if I take you to page 5, you've got obviously the people who live above, directly above at the first floor, I think is Dave's father. Then there are also 2 other residents who are in contact with daily and don't have an issue with the premises. Dave himself lives on the top floor, as I understand it. He doesn't have a problem. And the premises directly next door to the left, as you look at that photograph, again, we're in daily contact with those individuals and they don't have a problem. You'll note again, if I take you to photograph 3, so you can see at photograph 3 on the left-hand side, you'll just see the alleyway which takes you through onto the High Street, Highgate High Street. You'll see on the right-hand side There's a tree, behind that tree there's a door. We're in daily contact with that resident. You'll notice that there's a metal staircase which leads up to another premises directly above the one that I've just referred to. We're in daily contact with that individual. We're also in daily contact with other residents who live behind. And again, all of them have indicated to us that there's not an issue in relation to noise. If there was, we would be addressing it. In respect of persons who live on the right-hand side of the premises, we're obviously aware of Ms. Thurlow and her concerns. We're not aware of any other residents who have issues. Certainly no one has made themselves aware to Theo, and he is at the premises on a daily basis. But again, we're very happy to meet with the residents from that building. If it would assist, we're happy to introduce ourselves. We're happy to talk to them because it's a community pub. We're very much in favour of communication. In addition to all of the things that I've referred to, you'll note that at page 10 and 11 of the additional papers is a letter from Dr. Hagan. And I think Dr. Hagan has set out his thoughts. He obviously works very locally. I believe that he's in attendance this evening, and I think that he would like to just reinforce, I think, one or two aspects from the letter, and I would invite him at this stage to address the committee if he may.
Okay, yes. Okay, yeah.
Hi there, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you all for your time. I know it's getting late, and just to help solve this situation, I'm very appreciative listening to the lady next door who may have, had some issues with the noise. But I think one of the main reasons what prompted me to react was that very specifically the social profiling of this place, of this institution, that came to my attention via the media, via the Ham and High. And what upset me about being a Highgate resident and somebody who's local is that, the terms calling this institution an American redneck themed bar, and there's no place for it in Highgate, there's no place for it in the country. Also, the crowds of customers smoking, smashing glass, shouting, arguing, fighting, taking drugs. I really wanted to just give my honest, heartfelt view and try and show that these gentlemen are professionals, they are entrepreneurs, they've worked terribly hard. I've seen what that premises went through in the upgrade, because it was derelict when they took over. And I mean, they have spent an absolute fortune in upgrading it. And in addition to what I'm saying, I also wanted to explain to the committee what type of venue it is. I mean, I have a clinic across the road. I mean, I have 18 clinicians, specialists who work here, and we have been there. We have frequented the venue, and there's one lady, her husband is a very eminent professor. He's a past dean of the Royal College of Surgeons. He goes to the venue every Wednesday evening with a barrister friend. He's over 60 years old. I mean, some of my specialists, we visit the venue, and I think the the image that I wanted to convey to people who have not been is that it is a very well run, clean, professional institution. And I have no doubt that with everybody working together, it could become a very, very successful part of our high street. Another aspect that I mentioned in my letter was, I mean, we are small businesses up and down the high street, and it's a struggle. It's a struggle. I mean, the high street, I've been here for 30 years. It's been dying on its feet for most of it. Venues closing. There was at one point 6 or 7 establishments were boarded up and closed. And I feel that it is a quirky, unique concept. It's in fact not a collection of misogynistic pictures of women on the walls, but it's actually a private collection of Americana that has found a home. And I think personally, we should give these guys a chance and let them prove to us that they can run the establishment without disrupting the neighborhood, but rather enhancing the neighborhood. And I just wanted to thank you all for hearing me out. And as I said in my letter, I am very happy to buy anybody a drink at my expense. I've already discussed this, and I would be more than happy so that you can come and experience what this place is all about. And it's not a redneck hooligan drug abuse venue. It is not. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You may regret offering a drink.
Sorry, I was just going to say thank you to Dr. Hagan.
Anyway,
The only, if I might just finish by saying that I think the only other point that I would look to make in respect of support of the applicant is in relation to, I think it was suggested that the previous operator had been quiet and not causing any problems. The only point I think I wish to say about that, I don't know about the previous operation myself, but I would say that it would appear from the dates that that Ms. Thurlow is referring to, that she would not have experienced the previous operator either, because it's my understanding that they closed in March 2020 at the first lockdown, and never reopened following that, and so certainly wouldn't have been present when Ms. Thurlow moved into the area. I'm sure there'll be questions, so I shall be quiet.
Thank you very much. I will take questions from councillors first. Do you have any questions? Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Sutherland. You spoke at length, but I don't really feel like you addressed the main issue. So I'd like you to do so, if you may, which is materially noise nuisance between 11 and 1:30. Now, in part, that has been addressed because you have indicated that there has been no application for music, so it would fall under the regulated time and going up to 11. But there has been no additional conditions put in to manage the noise complaints that have been raised tonight, as far as I can see, beyond what it appears the establishment is already doing. And you acknowledge in your representation that the establishment wasn't aware of any noise issues. Now, obviously, the neighbours that have made representations, and I'm sure that they wouldn't make representations if there wasn't something to complain about, feel very differently. So that it's clear that, you know, the proprietor's interpretation of what is a nuisance is perhaps very different to neighbours. And so I would like to understand from yourself, what are you proposing to do differently from what has been happening whilst under operation from the Thames. Given that also in the representation earlier, there was an indication that a direct contact led to the feeling of intimidation, and so to suggest that they can at any point just contact the managers and the issue would be dealt with might not necessarily be the best means of resolving the issue, you know, even if it is only on a quarterly basis that there are problems. And we have sat on licensing a long time. We understand that there will almost always be problems with some venue at some point or another. But, you know, what we want is for venues to operate within neighbourhoods where everyone is by and large happy, of course. So I would like you to kind of address the main issue, which is the noise nuisance and what the establishment is going to do differently from now on.
So please accept my apologies. I thought I was trying to address that issue, and if you feel that I haven't, then that is my failing, and let me try and address the issues, if I may now. In relation to most of the representations, most of the representations talk about an increase in hours. That is the main theme. If you look through the representations, and I'm looking from page 27, bottom of page 27, very strongly object to any extension of the hours of opening. Over the page, at present, the noise is just about acceptable, but if the application is approved, it will not be. If you go to the next one on page 28, any later than that, however, so it's 11 o'clock, and this is talking about, again, applying for later hours, it's not welcome. If you go to the bottom of page 28, I wish to oppose the extension to normal pub licensing hours. Now, page 29, we're very strongly against the extension of the licensing hours. All of them are talking about extensions to licensing hours. And one thing this is not is an application to extend the licensing hours. Now, I appreciate that you will say, well, that we've not operated, or you may be saying that we haven't operated through till 1 o'clock. And that is not correct, if that's the perception. The premises reopened in July 2021.
Sorry, Mr. Sutherland, if I may interject
and
at this
has
point.
Operated all the way through until the premises were stopped from operating through to 1 o'clock. And the vast majority of people who are commenting here are saying, well, they don't want any later. And I suppose my response to that is, well, by its very nature, they're saying it's okay at the moment. We just don't want it any later. If it's okay at the moment, then the reality is it's not creating a problem for most people at the moment. I think that's what I'm trying to say. And you may not agree with me on that. But I think that is certainly one matter that we would put forward. Now, looking then to the issue of the complaint, and part of the problem that we have is that we're not notified of anything, of whether that's music noise or whatever, until we get to the hearing. And obviously, what have we sought to do to address that? Well, the things which I'm referring to are very much, are conditions which are not or were not on the previous license. And under the additional papers and the conditions which are agreed there are a number of conditions which will address or should address most of the concerns. So the issue in relation to smokers being permitted to take drinks outside with them only up until 11, that will of course become a condition on the license. We say we've been not acting that way, and I think probably what you would say to me then is, well, if you've been acting that way, it hasn't worked. And I might say to council on that point, well, that may be right, but now that we know about it, of course, we have to take action. We have to deal with that. And therefore, what we do is look at our practice in relation to the smokers, the numbers of smokers outside of the premises after 11 o'clock, and we need to manage that in a much closer way. But we haven't been given the opportunity to do that. Sorry, Councillor Cawley, you want me? I'm obviously not addressing your point, so go on.
If I can, sorry, Gina, if I can just say, Mr. Sutherland, when you're speaking, you can't hear anyone else. So when we try and interject, you can't hear us.
Yeah.
So hence why I was waving. I wasn't trying to be rude or anything like that. We had tried to stop you halfway through twice. I understand the conditions. I've read them through thoroughly. I understand all of the representations. My question is simply, given what you have heard, are you making any further changes or plan to make any further changes based on the representation that was made earlier? I mean, that's essentially my point. Are you going to do things any differently, or is it just as per the conditions, which is, I think, what you inferred there, which is how you have been operating since opening, just that they are now legally binding conditions as per the Licensing Act? So is there anything you wish to add about how you will operate differently?
Thank you, sir. I didn't think that you were being rude and waving at me. I'm on a phone, I'm afraid, so the screen that I have is very small, and being someone with wearing glasses, etc., and on a small screen, I'm afraid I missed you, and I do apologise. So, in relation to are we doing anything differently, then I think what I'm saying to you, sir, in relation to that, is that what we want to do is work with the neighbours. And I would say that to a substantial degree, may not be fully, but to a substantial degree, we have achieved that. And I think that can be seen from the degree of support that there is to the premises from the local neighbourhood. So I think that will be the first response to that. I appreciate, I think you touched on this, that one of the concerns was about intimidation. And I appreciate that is an issue. Theo is a very amiable guy and is very approachable, and is very much prepared to meet with, as I've said, any of the residents, particularly any residents from the premises to the right. So of the premises, if you were looking at it from the outside. So if it was of any assistance, we would look to meet with residents. If it was helpful to have a regular meeting, then we would arrange that. If it was felt that, and I think Theo probably is the best person to have that meeting, but if it was felt that he wasn't, then we would or could find somebody else. Sinead could well deal with that. I don't know whether this particular authority, I know there are some local authorities who provide some form of assistance with regards to meetings and sometimes facilitate meetings at council buildings. I don't know whether your council has the facilities to do that or whether they would do that. But if it was something that would assist and it was available within Haringey, then clearly we would take that up. In relation to the leaving and the smoking, which I think was the main cause for the concern, I'm saying that there are a number of things that we've done. Yes, we will continue to do them, but insofar as they've not been successful, we need to redouble our efforts to make sure that people leaving the premises do so quietly. Now that we're aware of that, that will, I anticipate from Theo, that will probably mean that on every night that he's here, it will probably be him talking to people as they leave, every single person. And that's not an unreasonable thing to do, because it's, as I said to you, it's not a very large premises. That he or Sinead or anyone working here will be saying to them, hey guys, look, please, it is late. we do live in a residential area. You know that, you live nearby. Can you just make sure that you keep your voices down? Now, generally speaking, most people do that when they're asked. And here we're talking about local people, and they know what the issue is. So I think that they would respond to that. I think that that would be our first point.
Okay.
I think that in relation to the smokers, we need to monitor that more closely. It may be that we need to limit the numbers. It may be, if I may say, a suck it and see approach. If in any way I've come across as ignoring what has been said, then again, that was not my intention. It was merely to say that we are responding to obviously things which we've been made aware of in the last day or so. And we're obviously closed at the moment because we don't have a license. And so once we've got hopefully should the committee
sorry, Mr. Sutherland, Mr. Sutherland, I think the chair is trying to address
then of course we will look to work with the residents. We're not looking at overriding. Sorry, Councillor.
Thank you. I think you answered the question. Before I ask if there are any more questions, Naz, you wanted to come in?
Yes, please. Can I just remind the committee that it has its initial deadline of 10 p.m. As you well know. Thank you very much.
I would thank you. I thought it's probably that. Councillor Blake, you had your hand up earlier? Do you have a question?
No, Chair. It's all been covered by Councillor Corley Harrison's questions.
Okay.
So I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, I agree. I have similar questions which have been answered. So I will ask them if they're still with us, the licensing officer, do you have any? Are you here, Shah? Do you have any questions?
No, Chair, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Are there any questions from objectors? Anybody else to the applicant? I don't think there are.
Just a comment that actions will speak louder than words. So I don't believe he's really addressed the noise and what they're going to do about it. But
sorry, Chair,
you know,
can we please?
Sorry, can I ask who it was who just spoke, because I can't see.
It's Sarah Thorley. Actually,
okay,
can I just say to the representative of the Duke's Head, perhaps you'll get my name correct. It's Mrs. Thorley, Thorley, not Thurlew.
Okay. Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks.
Okay, I think if there are no, I have seen hands up, but I don't know who you are. Yes. Rachel, are you here to support the application, I assume?
Yes, I am. I'm here as a representative for the Dukes, and I would like an opportunity to speak.
Can I? We're running late. Can I? Okay. As I took one, I had one resident against. I will take you. Could you make it 2 minutes?
As succinct as possible. Yes, I certainly can. Thanks everyone for your time. I appreciate it. It's getting late. I just wanted to.
Rachel made an existing representation. Can you just point me to?
I have made a representation, and I have my it has been accepted.
Do you know which page?
I can confirm. Rachel Terry is able to speak in support.
Dale, do you know which page it is? Sorry.
No, because I don't have the actual hard copy here with me.
All right.
Sorry.
All right, I'll whiz through the papers. Don't worry.
Okay. Carry on, Rachel.
So I just wanted to reiterate and add a bit more detail to my submission, my email of support. So I moved to Highgate from Hampstead in, I think it was June 2018, and I live on the high street, literally on the high street. I'm a few doors up from the Dukes. When I moved to Highgate, I was aware that there are, including the Dukes, 7 bars near where I live, along with a number of restaurants that also have license to sell alcohol. So being a grown-up, I understood that if I was going to live on a high street across the road from a couple of pubs, I probably was going to have 1 or 2 sleepless nights, maybe on a Friday and Saturday night. I do have to deal with people walking up and down the high street, some evenings, not every evening, making a lot of noise. Sometimes people do get drunk when they go to pubs. Sometimes they have fun. I don't know which bar they're coming from. Likewise, by the time people get down to the Dukes and there's noise, can we assume they're all coming from the Dukes? Who knows on that one? But I do think if you're going to live on a high street, you do have to accept that there is going to be some noise and some disturbance. I do also want to raise the point, someone made an objection about, it's the same point that Dr. Hagan made, of it being a redneck bar and somehow misogynistic and for hellraisers and all the rest of it. Now, as a feminist, I absolutely would not be stepping foot into a bar that was misogynistic and anti-women. The Dukes is far from that. It's an incredibly inclusive place to be, and I mean very inclusive. Everyone is welcome. It's very diverse. I appreciate the fact that it is over 21s, and I'm going to be enjoying my time and drinking with people who are of a similar age to me. I work in the city, between Canary Wharf and the city. I do come home late at night, and it is great for me to be able to have a bar that I can go to that is open late. I can have a quiet drink with sensible people. And to be honest, I don't recognise, my experience with the Hudson Boys has always been incredibly positive. They've always made sure that I've ambled up the high street safely and made it home, as they do for everyone who leaves the pub. That is one of the reasons I drink there. I work in a regulated environment. I cannot afford to be hanging around in bars, clubs or restaurants where things are going to get messy and the police are going to turn up and you know, fights are going to break out, because it's just not something I can be associated with. So that again is another draw for me to go into the Dukes. And quite frankly, I don't know anywhere else I can get a pink cocktail when it's Dolly Parton's birthday.
Okay. Okay, Rachel, thank you very much. I will ask people to sum up now, I think. And I will start with our licensing officer, Mrs. Byte. Would you like to sum up, please?
Thank you, Chair. No, there's no further summing up from me, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And can I ask Shah, do you want to sum up?
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to say that the licensing authority hours do still stand. We'd like the alcohol to cease at 12:30 and the premises to close at 1 AM if the committee should consider that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Can I ask Sarah, as she spoke before, do you want to say sum up very quickly? You want to say?
No, really, I think I said. I think everything has been said. You know, we want to live alongside, peacefully, and peacefully being the operative word. We've not had a great experience up to now with the pub next door, and you know, we just want to live a peaceful, quiet life, as we did before. So, you know, I think if that there needs to be, you know, limit on that noise, and I'm not just talking about music, I'm talking about the patrons, which, you know, as I've said before, it has made our lives pretty miserable on occasion, but thank you, Madam Chairman. I appreciate your I appreciate you taking my comments.
Thank you. And now I will ask the applicant to sum up, please.
Thank you, Madam. I'm still a little confused by Mrs. Thurlow's comments that she wants to live. Thorley, I do apologise, Mrs. Thorley's comments that she wants to live next door to a place as we did before. It's my understanding, certainly from the dates when she indicates when she moves in, that her only experience has either been when the premises has been closed during the pandemic, or in fact when she moves in that the premises is only operated under the guise of Mr. Hudson's operation. There are 7 reasons I would like to put forward as to why the committee should grant the licence, and why I would submit that the licence should be granted through to 1 o'clock as applied for, rather than 12:30 with a drinking up time, as it were, through till 1 o'clock. The premises has been a pub since the 1800s. It has, secondly, it's operated, I would say, since last July, without any complaints being communicated to the operators, and that's not because they haven't sought complaints, but certainly the people that have made themselves known and that they've been talking with haven't had any issues with the premises. The license ceased because of a technical issue. The company that held it went into liquidation on the 7th of January of this year. I've indicated, as I've said, that we've been in operation since July, and there have not been any complaints that have been made known to us until, as I say, this evening and a few days ago. Fifthly, there's no objection from the police. There's no issue in relation to crime and disorder in this place. If there was, then the police would be here, and therefore any comments that are made in respect of drugs and criminal behaviour or disorderly criminal behaviour, I would ask the committee to disregard. Sixthly, there are a number of residents, extensive number of residents who are in support. And those residents wouldn't be putting their head above the parapet or stepping out into the community unless they felt that this pub was something that was worth fighting for, and they're prepared to put their names forward and say, look, we would like this place to continue as it was, operating through till 1 o'clock. Seventhly, the conditions. The conditions which are proposed are extensive and do deal with how the premises should and could and will have to operate should any licence be granted. In addition to those conditions, I know Councillor Corley has looked for additional steps that we would look to take. And I think that the area that I would focus on in respect of that there are conditions which will deal with the nitty-gritty, ensuring these things happen. But the other aspect that I think is important is that we will seek to engage with all residents within the area, as we have done so far. But if that necessitates or would be assisted by regular meeting with local residents in order for any issues to be raised so that we can address them, then of course, if it was necessary, or the committee felt it was necessary to impose a condition in such a way, then that could be imposed upon the licence upon any grant. If the committee were going down that route, then I would suggest that the meetings be held, I'm going to say sort of half yearly, but obviously that's a matter for the committee. The telephone number is a condition which is available and is on the licence should a licence be granted. But I do appreciate the comment that some people may feel intimidated in contacting Mr. Hudson. In those circumstances, it's my submission that in all of the matters that you've heard and that we've put forward, that the licence can be granted. It can be granted for the sale of alcohol through to 1 o'clock, and that in relation to the opening times, that the premises may be permitted to open through till 1:30, unless I can assist the committee further.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I like to, there are a couple of people with their hands up, but I think we have wound up now, and I'm sorry, I'm not going to call you. I'd like to thank every one of you that took the time to come here tonight. Thank you very much. I would also like to ask you to leave us because the committee needs to deliberate on our decision, and our decision will be provided within 5 working days. So thank you very much for coming, and we had a meeting with IT problems, but in the end, I think we managed to finish.
Madam
Yeah.
Chair, I don't know whether I could just address you on the. I appreciate you have a permitted timetable of sending notice within 5 working days. At the moment, the premises is closed and requires the premises license in order really to be able to operate. I think it has a temporary event notice which will cover us for a few days, but I would ask that if at all possible, should the committee be minded to issue a license for the premises, that a decision be communicated to us sooner rather than later, purely because of that. Be very grateful.
Yeah, thank you. The officers are with us, and we will try our best. Thank you very much. I say good night, and thank you all again for coming.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay.